State Building and beyond, serving South Florida at 102.7 WMXJ HD3 and also Hartford, Connecticut at 93.7 WZMX. Of course, you can catch us on the web at roadblockradio.com and, of course, on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio app, iTunes app, and at the App Store. Alexa, you can just say, hey, play Roadblock Radio. I'm David Shepard, Patrick Reed, Jennifer Rampasad. I'm sorry, not Roslyn Smith. I apologize for that. This is the Community Connection. I know in the beginning there, you guys heard me play a clip from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He's calling for Donald Trump to, please get ICE presence out of Minnesota during a press conference last night. We'll talk about that. But before we do, we got to talk about this mid-Atlantic. I don't know what it is. I feel like Antarctic here in Northeast Jersey. The tri-state area is overwhelmed with snow, and so is half of the country as well. Patrick Reed, Roslyn Smith, how you guys doing, and how you guys coping in this weather here?
Well, pleasant good afternoon to you, David. Thanks for being the provider of this program this afternoon. Welcome to everyone inside the Community Connection, of course, and all of our guests are going to be here. We're going to have a lively conversation. I see most in the Community Connection as well. Welcome, Joe. And we have our guest, Roslyn, take the guests through the program. Roslyn, how you doing? It is indeed a nor'easter. Is that what you call that one, a nor'easter? Or is it just snow, deluge of snow?
We can't even say it's a mid-Atlantic. We can't see it's a northeastern because it's coming from the west, actually, sweeping all the way across the United States to the northeast. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, through the heartland of America, and snow on top of snow on top of snow is going on. And Mother Nature is having her speak. In a few months before now, it was, of course, the hurricane that battered Jamaica, our homeland, and left much damage. And now, of course, the United States Midwest, from the west all the way through the Midwest and into the Northeast, we've got this tremendous snowfall. This pattern has brought with it snow as well as ice. Ice is in the mix, and boy, what a double entendre there, man. Ice is in the mix. We're going to talk about ice as well, the real ice, and then the ice. That's causing all kind of trouble all over the country, man. I'm filled with punts today, David and Roslyn. So we'll take it all on, and we'll take it through the Community Connection wherever you may be standing. Whether you're in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, or South Florida, or on the World Wide Web across the entire globe. We're here inside the Community Connection. Welcome. And Roslyn, you have been busy. What say you this afternoon inside the Community Connection?
Well, you know what? I know that it's snowy and it's cold, and they're saying that these are dangerous temperatures, but I tend to lean towards resourcefulness. And so I'm taking today to reseason all my cast iron pots, which requires a very high heat in order to do so.
So you gotta make sure you have heat, but I don't know, is this electricity grid gonna hold up for us? Are you gonna be able to heat those pots? I don't know.
We can already see the
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I was out there in the supermarket. I was trying to get salt. And man, I went from one store to the next store to the next store.
I could have told you that.
Sold out twice before I got. I went to shop right, it was gone. Everything was gone.
Even water, yeah. I heard some people complaining that they couldn't get cookies. Man,
we've been here before, of course. It's not just the snow. We've seen it happen during COVID. Of course, we had a constant run on supermarkets, and so Mother Nature is happening. Those who don't believe in climate change, I'm wondering if they're thinking it through today. What is happening on the ground in the country is certainly worthwhile talking about from that perspective. But it's truly amazing, and I hope everyone is hunkering down safely. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, it's a lot going on across the country, and I know we have a lot of guests lined up for this afternoon, so we want to kind of start diving into that.
Indeed.
I know you guys heard me play the clip in the beginning. We guys saw that a third person was killed in Minnesota. Roslyn, I know you have a civil rights guest on. You want to break the ice with this?
Oh, absolutely. So, I was fortunate enough that prior to the most recent fatality in Minnesota, there was actually a New York state-based legislator by the name of Senator Myrie who held a press conference towards the end of last week to discuss legislative provisions to enable people who feel that their rights have been violated to sue the federal government. And so there are provisions when there are state level officials, involved in events that, we have seen over the years and have framed as, brutality and overreach and overstepping, but there's no such provision right now when it comes to federal officials, and that, of course, would include ICE in that context. And so, with that said, I want to introduce Susan Lerner, who is the executive director of Common Cause New York. And she is one of New York's leading voices on voting rights and election reform. She is a founding leader of Let NY Vote Coalition, which has helped secure major reforms like early voting, automatic voter registration, and vote by mail in New York State. She also heads Rank the Vote NYC, a leading citywide coalition of more than 50 organizations focused on voter education around ranked choice voting and ensuring its successful implementation across New York City. She is a graduate of NYU Law School and a former litigator. She regularly writes and speaks on voting rights, ethics, transparency, redistricting, and campaign finance. And so today, I wanted to bring her on to kind of tell us a little bit more about her organization, because they are one of the leading voices trying to get the support that we need at a community level for this legislation that would be a check and balance to some of the federal overreach that we've seen, and potentially, prevent some of the fatalities that we've seen in places like Minnesota. So, Susan, happy to have you on the program today.
Glad to hear it.
For having me. Delighted to be here.
So, Susan, could you tell us a little bit more about the legislation that your organization is currently supporting? It's not only Senator Myrie. I think there's a bill also in the Assembly through Assemblywoman Romero, and I know that David has a little clip from that press conference. So, David, how about we play the clip from the press conference, and then we'll have Susan tell us about this legislation, her organization, and how we can get engaged around this.
Our country was born out of protecting rights, out of ensuring that people could express themselves, that they could practice whatever religion they wanted to, that they could associate with people, that they could be mad at the government without being indicted, without being jailed, without having their funds stripped, without having agencies be attacked because they're supporting their neighbors. And so we have, I think, a foundational responsibility as New Yorkers. And look, especially because we're from New York. Now, I happen to be from Brooklyn. And so, anytime somebody swings, we got to swing back. But we have, I think, a responsibility as the most important state in the union to demonstrate to the rest of the country that this is what you do when our republic is under attack.
Respond to that.
So Senator Myrie has it absolutely right. I mean, New York City was the first capital of our country. And when our rights are under attack, we stand up and we fight back. Common Cause is a national organization. We have state chapters across the country, and I'm in contact with my colleague on the ground in Minnesota. The situation there is horrifying, inhumane. It's a war zone. And right now, what we are seeing is a federal government completely out of control. And, the tagline for Common Cause is holding power accountable. So we are absolutely focused on supporting bills like S 8500, which is A 9076 in the Assembly, introduced, as Roslyn pointed out, by Senator Myrie and by Assemblymember Romero. And what that bill is designed to do is to allow individuals whose constitutional rights have been violated by any officer, federal, state, local, to be able to go into court and vindicate their rights directly. Now, from my point of view, that is not a substitute for the state protecting us, but it is an additional tool. So we know in New York that our Attorney General, Letitia James, does not hesitate to step in and vindicate our rights. But what this does is it empowers us as individuals also to be active in ensuring that there are guardrails, guidance, and accountability to any officer at any level of government, including the federal government, if they violate our basic constitutional rights. So it's an extremely important bill, and it's one of our top priorities for this current legislative session. And unfortunately, the horrifying events of this weekend in Minnesota just underline the necessity and the urgency for every single state to step up and demand accountability on the part of federal government and to empower individual citizens to protect our rights, as this bill, if it were signed into law, would do.
You know, as you say that, real quick, Roslyn, I just want to I'll piggyback off of that. So Minnesota Mayor Jacob Freya, he spoke about the shooting that you're talking about, and he did have something to say regarding that. And I just wanted to play that right now.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end? How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values? I'm done being told that our community members are responsible for the vitriol in our streets. I'm done being told that our local elected officials are solely responsible for turning down the temperature to President Trump. This is a moment to act like a leader. Put Minneapolis, put America first in this moment. Let's achieve peace. Let's end this operation, and I'm telling you, our city will come back. Safety will be restored. We're asking for you to take action now to remove these federal agents.
You guys?
Yeah. Well,
any respond, guys?
I tell you, it is to hear an American municipal leader, a mayor, plead to the federal government in that regard. It's uncanny, and it is very, very, disturbing, because it means that there's a feeling in the country that the federal government and the local government or state government are at almost at war with each other. It certainly don't seem to have any kind of collaboration or cooperation going on in addressing the issue that the federal government and state that they're trying to address. And we here in the Northeast are watching it happen in Minneapolis. Susan, how concerned are you that this very same thing is going to happen in New York City or in a major city in the Northeast, Boston, or even maybe Philadelphia very soon? It seemed to me that, go ahead.
Absolutely concerned. And that's why Common Cause New York has joined with over 200 organizations and congregations to form Hands Off NYC, to be an umbrella organization to help coordinate the resistance, the pushback, the assertion of our rights as New Yorkers and Americans. Patrick, you're absolutely right. This is not normal. And we need to call it out over and over and over again. The conduct is appalling, but the follow-up is even more disturbing, right? Because they lied about Alex Preddy. They lied about Nicole Good. They lied about the people who died in detention and how they ended up, dead because of the negligence of ICE, right? They said that Preddy was fighting back, but the video shows
Right.
he was holding his phone,
Right.
and that was it. They took his gun.
Yes. And
they
then fired. Yes.
It almost seems as though they are ready from the highest level to come out with a standard statement that is beyond, looking at evidence, not even without even doing an investigation. They're ready with a response. They're ready to typecast the victim, as someone who's undesirable and who's threatening the safety of the officers. Susan, it is. I've never seen it before this way.
It's propaganda. It's just straight out propaganda. And apparently some portion of Americans who only get their information from far right-wing sources like Fox News and Truth Social don't know they're being lied to. So it's extremely important for those of us who see what's going on to really assert the truth, not buy the lies. And when we're asserting the truth, not repeat the lies, but calmly and repeatedly say, this is what actually happened. The other thing that's really challenging, this conduct is happening, I believe, because Trump wants to incite a civil war. He wants us to respond with violence. And I have to say that I am so admiring of Minnesotans who have not risen to that bait, who have responded with collective action, with clergy. There were 400 clergy on Friday from around the country in Minneapolis, leading services, standing witness, and we're all called to be witness to this appalling conduct and to call it out for what it is: immoral, wrong, evil. Forget legality. We're at beyond legality. We are at a point where we have to be willing to say, you do not murder people, whatever their immigration status. Americans not documented, period. It is wrong to murder people in the streets. It just is. It's wrong to push them over. It's wrong to pepper spray them in the face. It's wrong to throw tear gas canisters out of the car as you leave because all of the neighbors have gathered together to tell you you are not welcome in their community. All of that is wrong. And we have to consistently and calmly call it out for what it is. It is wrong. It is immoral. It is un-American. We do not accept it.
Now, Roslyn, we have a few more minutes before we go. Do you have a follow-up?
I do. I want to better understand that there is an upcoming vote in Congress that would make a determination around funding. And so I would love to get your perspective on what, if any, impact that would have in the short term versus the long term in terms of like curbing the behavior that we've seen with ICE. And then, of course, with the legislation that you're helping to advance, what we should be paying attention to and how listeners can get involved.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for pointing out that there actually is activity right now in Congress. It was very disappointing to see that 7 Democrats in the House of Representatives caved in and voted for a budget which would provide an additional $40 billion with a B dollars to ICE. They already have an extraordinary amount of money, more money than any police force in our country. And Congress is attempting to give them even more money without any sort of accountability. So that budget bill has moved to the Senate. And I'm happy to say that, unfortunately, because of the horrifying events in Minnesota, we are beginning to see some pushback on the part of Senate Democrats. It's extremely important that our representatives in Congress, our senators, and our House of Representative members hear from us saying clearly, it is not okay to provide endless amounts of money to ICE. You need to stop this. You need to stand firm. You need to vote against this bill. We're your constituents. We're Americans. We want you to help protect us. And so calling Congress is extremely helpful. They need to hear from us. They need to hear from a wide variety of voices telling them stand firm, protect our rights. Don't give a blank check to lawless federal agents who are masked and killing people in the streets.
All right.
In terms of the state bill that we talked about, the New York Civil Rights Act, I'm happy to say that Governor Hochul has expressed support for making this a part of New York law.
All right. Thank you so much, Suzanne Lerner. Appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on. Hope to talk to you again sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of
Stay
your
warm,
day.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
All right,
All right, guys. All right, as we go take a break right now, this is the Community Connection, David Shepard, Roslyn Smith, and Patrick Reed. We'll be right back. Keep it locked.
I've been praying for the rain, praying for a way to get.
This is the Community Connection.
All I wanna do, all I wanna do, yeah. All I wanna do is, all I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and want to enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so hard. All I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and want to enjoy life. Cause every more you got me, no matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. It's the pleasures and pressures of life we look into, so try your best to make time for joy when the sorrows and pain of life sets on you. We both know that there is no choice, cause every lesson is a blessing, no stressing or guessing. Life is for the living, we know. We just live it to the fullest and let the good times flow. Cause all I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. All I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. Hey. I've been feeling a little frustrated, feeling so lost. So many days that I have been working so hard. From week I've been anticipating just to take my day off. Because life, it can be amazing if you just pause here much. Live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. All I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. So much to learn, so much to see. Some make it hard when it can be a breeze. We seek peace and to live at ease. Free as can be like the birds and bees.
This is the Community.
Happiness is scarce and it's easy to steal. There is beauty in despair. Comfort in the fear because we know that Jah is always there.
RoadblockRadio.com. WMXJ 1027.
That's Weed Over Water FM radio, where we take it higher to when a drunkard can fly ya. With just a flick of the wrist, you know we play the musical disc scene. We have the brand new world premiere right now, the big bad tune up and the big bad rhythm special request. You know it's the Diani Live a Little. You're the one, yo.
Live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause things so alright. All I wanna do is live a little, breathe a little, and wanna enjoy life. Cause every more can make a miracle. No matter what you trickle, cause no matter what you trickle, only live a little. All I wanna do is live a little. All I wanna do is live a little. All I wanna enjoy life. Live all I wanna live all I wanna live all I wanna said, go and enjoy my life. Yeah. I enjoy my life. Yeah. I enjoy my life.
Roadblock Radio, 1011 HD3 New York Tri-State, 1027 HD3 South Florida.
This is The Community Connection on Roadblock Radio 101.1 WCBS FM.
Giving praises, Father, only you gonna love me. If this world should let me down, only you I can sing to. If the audience not around, life has no meaning if everyone don't care. Don't have to talk to you for you to hear. Whoa, you're never on a mission, too busy for your son. Don't have to say a word, you feel me to the bone. Led me to the water, and yes, I had my fill. And up to this time, you're the best friend I have. And I know I live again. I live again. All the tests that they give, I will forgive, 'cause I know I live again.
The one and only, the legend, Mr. Barris Hammond. Do remember, he's coming for Mother's Day weekend, all right, on the 9th, UBS Arena. Get your tickets right now at Ticketmaster.com. They have 2-for-1 specials going on right now. You buy two, you get one. You can use the code word MOTHER to get your tickets right now. It's a good gift for Mother's Day if you want to compliment someone with the perfect gift. All right, this is the Community Connection. I'm David Shepard, Patrick Reed, and Roslyn Smith. We are here, and we go until 4 o'clock. All right, guys, we're still talking about this weather outside, man. I don't know. You guys think you guys going to be able to dig yourself way out? So far, I think we have at least about 4 inches on the ground here in Jersey.
I'll tell you,
I don't know about New York.
It is I am I'm pleased to see the winter come back as winter. If you can understand what I mean.
Really? You want the
I've been
winter? You
through.
want the snow
Listen, man. I'm tired of summer type
and the
winters.
cold?
Yeah. I was here in 1979. 76. I came across this Caribbean Sea, and when I came across in 1976, I walked out of the airport into snow that reached my thigh, and
So you walked right out
a
into it.
week later, I had to walk in that to go to school, and so
And
from
you ain't
January
tired of
to
it
the end
yet?
of the winter, I had an induction. It was the quick induction of a real winter. And
Welcome
I've
to
had a number of
America.
them in the late 70s and in the 80s. I haven't seen them since. I miss them, I miss them, but here we are, man, right smack in the middle of a winter storm, and it is something that we all have to be concerned about because of the potential fallout and dangers of it. And I having just come back from Jamaica, I have to tell you, my versatility is. It is proven these days, man. From storm, summer type, environment to cold.
I don't know how you can adjust to this, man. Hey, Mo, you're in Georgia, though. And I know Georgia got a little bit. Welcome, Mo. I didn't say good afternoon to you, but good afternoon and welcome to the program, bro. But the weather, they were anticipating some snow there, but I'm getting reports that it's only like ice and maybe a little icy rain or something. What's going on in Georgia?
Man, that's cold, man.
I am laying on the floor right by my window, and all it's doing is raining.
Really?
I was outside in the same T-shirt. I was outside. I went to check the car to see if there was any frost on the glass, like it normally is when you wake up. But this morning there was none. So it's beginning to rain a little now. Like when the amazing young lady was speaking. I was looking at the rain coming off the roof, but Georgia's good. I mean,
That's good.
there's nothing out there.
I heard Kroger and the Walmarts, they were all.
Well, people always act silly. I went to pick up, I have like things that I like to cook, and I pulled up to the parking lot and it was completely packed, no carts, and I went in, there was no bread anywhere. I didn't want bread, but there's just empty racks and empty pallets. People acted like the second coming was happening.
Yeah,
but
you would think it's the end of times. It's crazy.
I don't know what
It is.
I don't know why we do that because we keep getting this practice. It's almost every couple of years we go through this routine. And people just keep panicking over and over again.
Armageddon.
I have a question for you guys, because just not to switch a little bit, but the young lady said something that really stuck out. She said some Democrats caved, right? And the bill was passed through. Is there a reason why those people's names weren't posted so that we can vote our displeasure? Because it's like having a war and having someone behind you continuously telling the enemy what you're doing and completely destroying what you want to have done. And to have people like that responsible for your vote is not very smart. So like all of those Democrats, those 7 Democrats that caved, they shouldn't be in office anymore. They really shouldn't. And I have one thing to say, and then I'll be off, and you guys could continue. But people keep saying that they're so astonished. It is so difficult. Just go back 30 years. I always say, first, they come for you. And if your neighbors don't do anything to help you, they come for them. And guess what, guys? They've been doing this for us for years. They've been shooting us, killing us, lying about it for years. And no one stood up for us. Guess what just happened?
Yes, like Malcolm X had this famous quote, right, Mo? Chickens come home to
chickens. Yeah, they're very saddened that people are losing their lives. But if you think about it, the people that are losing their lives were people that didn't stand up for us when we've been losing our lives all these years. And that's the danger of, that's the danger of when things, because eventually they turn to the bigger group. They turn to the bigger group. Yeah. So It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
So it's awful. It's awful. I've seen what they've done with. I've seen what they've done with a 2-year-old. I've seen them kill people. But guess what? I've seen them do the same thing to us.
Happened before. It's Roslyn, when I was watching the news, and I'm listening to the director of ICE and Border Patrol. First of all, Border Patrol has moved from is no longer Border Patrol. They have decided they have nothing to do with the borders. So now they're patrolling the municipalities' borders, right? They're no longer the country.
Neighbor patrol.
Yeah, it's neighborhood patrol now, and it is crazy. I almost felt as I was sitting in my Development of Western Civilization course, listening to my professor talk about the rise of the brown shirts in Italy under Mussolini, or the rise of the black shirts in Germany under Hitler. It's eerie, the kind of feeling you get when you have masked men in law enforcement, masked to the T. You can't even tell who they are, right? And they have big guns and lots of big guns and lots of authority in your community to do as they will. This is crazy. And when I look at what's happening on the world stage, and look and also what's happening nationally, there's a whole lot of distraction going on here.
A lot.
I don't know, Roslyn, if you see the way that I see it.
You know what? I definitely I see it. I see it, and I'm also reflecting on the sentiments that Mo gave, and you're armed, right? And that became a tipping point. And then when you talk to, or you've seen, the stories out of the civil rights movement in the 60s and the freedom riders, right? And other people who are not of color that have gotten involved and were killed or badly hurt, it became a tipping point. And so while it is unfortunate that we still live in this hierarchy where certain lives are not as valued as others, when someone who is from the mainstream culture is killed or harmed, historically, that has led to a tipping point. And I think that's what we're in right now.
Well, when you look at now, this argument has been even spilling over now, where you see former reporter Don Lemon and Nicki Minaj going back and forth in difference in opinion. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Don Lemon, they just dismissed a charge on him for some kind of KKK clan kind of charge they're trying to slap him with. But here's his response to Nicki Minaj and what Nicki Minaj had to say regarding him.
So people have been asking me about responding to Nicki Minaj's unhinged, homophobic tweet about me. I usually don't respond to this stuff, but let me just say this. Nicki Minaj, stop talking about for which you know nothing about. This is out of your depth, by the way, and you are a homophobic bigot. You don't care about African Americans, and you're not an African American. From what I know, you are reportedly an undocumented citizen, so you should be deported under Donald Trump's rules. And the other thing is that your family members, you have one family member who is reportedly a sex offender, the other family member, your husband or whatever, a sex offender is your husband, and one of them is reportedly a pedophile. And you have nerve to talk about me and what you think that I do? Nicki Minaj, get a life. Stop being a pick-me. You should have put a pick-me doll on that damn tweet instead of a Chucky doll, because you are nothing but a pick-me. And I choose not to pick you. And so should black people, and so should gay people. Shouldn't buy your music. Clock that.
Well, what do you guys think about the back and forth here, and now the politics and the beliefs, the difference in opinion, and where it's starting to cause just regular civilians now they're kind of going at each other because of difference in opinion.
Remember what I just said? In every war, there are people right behind you that's telling the enemy everything that you're doing. Nicki is someone that has lost her way. She lost over 5 million followers when she started acting really silly. But people make the mistake of trying to get attention in a negative way so that they can get new followers so she can do her album. But the problem is, Nicki forgot that she's not American. And she stuck her head up so it can get chopped off. She forgot.
Roslyn, you there?
I was gonna say some of the things said, but now I'm listening. I was gonna say some of the things said, but now I'm listening to what Mo said, and we have to think about that, right? Because when we think of this program in particular and the network that we're on, lots of first and second generation Americans, right? And so what I think is unfortunate is that Nikki has some issues, right? She just happens to be from a very closely related diaspora to all of us, right? And right now she just doesn't represent what we need in this moment. And I think this is the worst time to be, having divisive rhetoric around, people who are of African American descent versus Caribbean descent, when we have all of us being unsafe under this federal regime.
Patrick, I can't wait to hear your opinion.
Yeah, man. I have so many things to say about this, but
I can't wait.
I don't
let me hear it.
I don't like pandering, and I hate it when I don't know what her publicists are telling her, whether or not she can increase her following, because if she gets into the mix and support, Donald Trump and the conservative movement, as she's put it, in line with what Trinidad and Tobago is doing in supporting the United States and its movement in the Caribbean and against Venezuela, because there's a parallel there, right? There's a parallel that Trinidad is supporting the United States in what it did in Venezuela. Nicki Minaj, being from Trinidad, seemed to have taken up the baton and is supporting the administration in what they're doing. She believes that's going to gain her some MAGA following, and she'll make big money from that. It is short-sighted, it is foolish, and given her tenuous position, I think she better think about it over and over, because she might find herself in a very, very bad spot. There's no love there for her.
But Patrick, you remember how she started this?
Mm-hmm.
She first came out, she was actually at the UN talking about a made-up story in Nigeria that we were killing the Christians in Nigeria. I've spent a lot of time in Nigeria. That doesn't happen. But, she used that to get on the bandwagon.
And went on that platform after that.
Yes. But the issue is, her brother's a pedophile, okay? Allegedly. And she wanted Trump to pardon him. So she was
Isn't he convicted?
No, not her husband, her brother.
Well, the brother, I'm talking about him. I know the husband is on, whatever. But
yeah.
Isn't the brother, didn't the brother get convicted?
Yes, but he could still pardon him like he's done to everyone else.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's not alleged if you're convicted.
Well, we have to be careful sometimes. Sometimes I'm careful. I'm not usually careful. But
I get
when it's human beings, I try to be a little.
He was found guilty, so hey.
He was guilty. But anyway, that's another. But here's the worst part. She was with Charlie Kirk's widow on stage at Turning Point, talking about Daddy Trump. Now, some people don't understand how vile that gentleman was. If you've studied anything about him, he was vile. Now, how she's up there saying how wonderful he is, forgetting that he thought all Black women were low IQ.
I don't know. She's looking at the great potential following that he has, and thinks he can.
It's not just that, but even Kirk, when Kirk was alive, he had nothing positive to say about specifically Nicki Minaj and her music. He talked about her music, that it's not influential for young adults and it's trash.
Well, guys,
but isn't that what we call cooning? Isn't that what we call cooning? When someone tells you to your face that they have no respect for you and you're dancing and singing and loving in front of them, that's cooning. And that shows a very, very low self-esteem. So I sometimes in those cases, you just have to feel really sad for someone and I think she has talent. It's just sad.
Yeah, I tend not to give it any oxygen. Well, I think
it up then. Let's get off of Nikki.
Oxygen at all.
Let's get off of Nikki then. What's up? What you got, Patrick?
I think she'll go the way she has come. I hope she makes lots of money and go and have a good retirement. I don't think she contributes anything positive to the conversation whatsoever.
Never.
I don't think she's a role model. I never saw her that way. I think she's an artist who's making money from her art, and that's how I leave it. I don't think it's worthwhile taking up time talking about her. I really don't. I think that what is important now is to look at, there's always distraction in our midst when things are happening, right? You know, it's a Machiavellian principle, right? Art of war principle. You know, when you want to get something over here, you create a little distraction over here and have people focus on that while the right hand is taking all the gold, left hand is mixing the pot, right? It is what's happening, and we have to be smart enough to see that this has been a constant methodology of ruling class people forever. You know, it is the rich who are now trying to usurp the wealth and the resources of the world while the poor people continue to boil in the pot. It is what's going on. You see that United States has gone into the Caribbean. It's got a massive force sitting down in the Caribbean. Nobody can say anything. Nobody can say anything, right? It just takes one boat to go over to Jamaica and to cool things down. You know, we can't say a thing. You know, they stayed on the sea and took out Venezuela's
size matters, right? Right?
The rulers, right?
Yeah.
And declare they're going to run the country from the sea. There's no land force. They're just going to blockade the thing by air and sea and rule the country and take the oil.
Remember what they did to a lot of the islands around Venezuela? They just cut off the airspace. And there were a lot of people trying to come back home, which they didn't talk about. This other news. A lot of people trying to come back home and couldn't. A lot of people stuck at the airports. A lot of people had to be taken into people's homes because they didn't have any money. They went on vacation. As always, they spend their money. They get to the airport and there's no flights. Flights were not allowed in or out. And people were stuck all around the West Indies, and no one said anything. Those are the things that don't get news.
Yeah, we don't hear anything much about Venezuela these days. We've got a cooling off period of a few days. Of course, when we come back, Roslyn, I got a guest who's going to talk a little bit about Venezuela. And we'll let Roslyn set the pace before we go out on the break. But isn't it amazing? We had a big capture of Maduro, the entire media. And I'm concerned about the media, man. You know, how they switch focus on things so fast. You know, there's something, the news cycle has got me all messed up. Because you can't spend 2, 3, 4 months on this thing as the most important thing to happen, and then all of a sudden you get some act and it disappears.
Well, you know, the media is biased. Some of the media platform is biased. You look at one platform and they report one part of the news or however they want to direct the news, and you have another media source that they do the total opposite. And I see that where they're split, just like America, where, you know, it's like it's split Republican Democrats. And that's the kind of news that we get. We get Republican news and then we get Democrat news. We don't just get the facts and the straight news like we used to. That's what I think.
But and they're terrified. They're terrified.
Yeah.
Both of them are terrified with what they're actually bringing out. So both sides produce news, but it's heavily filtered news. That's the worst part. So if you're going to listen to news, you have to listen to NRP, you have to listen to the British BBC, you have to take everything and listen to it and then form your own ideas.
The attention span for that, Mo? I don't think we do.
I think we have to if we're going to survive this.
Yeah.
You know, I agree that most people don't have it, but you're not allowed to not have it. These are things that are so dangerous. Do you realize the first distraction came the day that they were supposed to release the Epstein files and they only released 1%? 1%.
And they omitted that. They actually edited that. So, all right, guys, we got to take a small break.
Yeah, send the pace, Roslyn, with a quick statement about what to come in the next hour.
We'll have an independent journalist from Caracas on the program to give us some insight into the latest on Venezuela.
All right, guys. We'll be right back.
My neighbor.
This is The Community Connection on Roadblock Radio, 101.1 WCBS FM.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, What a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see trees of green, red.
Recording in progress.
This is The Community Connection on Roadblock Radio 101.1 WCBS FM.
Turn up your radio.
Yes, sir.
It's Roadblock Radio.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be. Don't know much about geography. Don't know much trigonometry. Don't know much about algebra. Don't know what a sliding rule is for. But I do know 1 and 1 is 2. And if this one could be with you, what a wonderful world this would be. Now, I don't claim to be an A student, but I'm trying to be. For maybe by being an A student, baby, I can win your love for me. Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be. La ta 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 ta. Yes,
welcome back to your number one Sunday afternoon show here on Roadblock Radio. It is roadblockradio.com and of course 102.7 WMXJ, 101.1 WCBS FM in the tri-state area, New York and New Jersey. And of course in South Florida, 102.7 WMXJ. I'm David Shepard. Patrick Reed, he's laughing over there, and of course we have Roslyn Smith, and we do have another guest that we'll be talking to, and I'm going to let Roslyn introduce our next guest as we await Sandy Daly will be joining us as well at around 3:15. So Roslyn?
Sure thing. Before the break, we had a discussion about how the news cycle moves really fast, right? And sometimes it's hard to keep up. Well, that's why I thought that this next guest, who is an independent journalist based in Caracas, Venezuela, would be a very great addition to the program to really help us understand how political decisions, economic pressures, and international policy are experienced by everyday people and families. So her name is Adriana Chavez, and I want to welcome her to the program. And just to start us off for listeners who may have been hearing about Venezuela only through the lens of mainstream media and headlines, what does daily life actually look like right now for everyday people and families on the ground?
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me. So that's a great question, because indeed we have a reality that is painted by mainstream media, and then we have the actual reality of what is happening on the ground in Venezuela. So right now, Venezuela is thankfully at peace. We have recovered our normality. People have just gone on with their daily lives. You know, school is going on. People are going to work. Commercial activity is happening as usual. Recreational activities are happening as usual. So everything has gone back to normal. And that for Venezuela, it is a way of resistance. It is a form of resistance against the fact that on January 3rd, the bombardment of Caracas and other states in Venezuela and the kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife was an attempt to disrupt our lives. It was an attempt to create chaos, to create an implosion, to try to create a civil war in Venezuela. So the people, the military or something will just try to completely destroy what was rest of Venezuelan institutions and government. And that didn't happen. And right now what we're seeing in Venezuela is that people are just reclaiming normality. While at the same time, we're seeing that Venezuela's popular power, all of these organized communities that we have around the country, among them communes, women's organizations, youth organizations, workers organizations, they're all still staging rallies and marches all across Caracas and all across Venezuela to continue to denounce the violation of Venezuelan sovereignty by the United States, to continue to denounce that what happened in Venezuela was a violation of international law and that it can happen to any other country from now on. So we need to oppose what happened here. And of course, people are also going to the streets to demand that President Maduro and his wife, who is an elected congresswoman, are released from the United States and brought back to Venezuela to continue the political project and the mandate that they were elected for.
So you've written extensively about how Venezuela is portrayed internationally. What is the most misunderstood or oversimplified narrative that you've seen out there?
Oh, well, for sure, I think the first thing will be the economic crisis in Venezuela. So we all know that Venezuela went through a very dramatic economic crisis since 2015, roughly until 2021, the ends of 2021. And I've seen that mainstream media simplifies this by saying that this was caused just by government policies, or this was caused by mismanagement or corruption. And while those elements can have some kind of incidence in what happened in Venezuela, the reality is that Venezuela was under U.S. sanctions, economic sanctions imposed by the United States on Venezuela's oil industry. And you have to remember that Venezuela, it is a country dependent on oil revenue. So when you sanction the main source of income of Venezuela, that is going to inequivocally provoke an economic decline in the entire country, and it's going to provoke a humanitarian crisis and a migration crisis. So I've seen this oversimplification of what happened in Venezuela as a result of just government policies. And we need to remember that 10 years under U.S. economic sanctions, under U.S. economic blockade, is the direct it is directly related to the economic crisis in the country. And right now, what we're seeing with oil deals coming a reality now with the United States, and people are saying, oh, so you needed to take out Maduro so Venezuela could finally have a revitalized oil industry. That is not true. The reason why the oil industry wasn't functioning the way it was supposed to is because we were under U.S. sanctions that prohibited foreign companies to operate in Venezuela, prohibited foreign companies to extract and commercialize Venezuelan oil. So it was a result of U.S. sanctions. What is happening now is that the United States, it is applying sanctions relief for its own convenience, but that is what is allowing Venezuela to finally sell oil, which is something that should have never have stopped. It only stopped because the United States decided that they needed to blockade the oil industry. So I think that is the most dishonesty that I've seen in mainstream media, trying to correlate Venezuela's economic crisis with the government or with government policies without mentioning the context of the sanctions.
Well, Adriana, I'm so happy that you're here because, and what you just said is so poignant, because I don't think most Americans understand that the reason Venezuela went through the economic crisis is because of the United States blockade. And so many other countries are under the same blockade, especially in, and as you know, blockades can take varying degrees. And when you look at what happened at the border, many people fleeing to the United States. I've said it on this program many times. You know, if you're starving at home and your money, the money that should be in your homeland is leaving, you're going to find that money. You're going to follow it and try and get it back to your families. And that is the reason why a lot of people come to this country, because the pressures that are put on other countries to bring goods and services into this land takes the resources away from those lands, and they come to get it back. It's just a natural phenomenon. But let me just ask you, what do you see? I mean, you've written a tremendous article. So revolution will not be terrorized. I was reading it, and I was really taken in with the historical context that you put out there. That the British did the same thing when they were ruling, and now the Imperial United States is doing the very same thing. What do you see for the people of Venezuela happening, going forward? Will there be a revolution in the country? Will there be a new government? How do you see it based on how the United States has postured itself and the power it has grabbed in the country?
Well, first I have to, now that you mentioned that article, the revolution will not be terrorized, I have to remember people that before the U.S. attacks on Venezuela on January 3rd, we saw the U.S. Army bomb and kill more than 100 people in small boats in the Caribbean and in the Pacific. So the war against Venezuela, the crimes against humanity, the war crimes didn't begin on January 3rd. They began months before with this completely criminal bombardment of small vessels in the Caribbean without any proof that these people were actually involved in any kind of drug trafficking. So thank you for reminding me of that, and that is important for people to know. And second, what I see, well, right now, there's something really dishonest happening in the mainstream media, dishonest, which is trying to portray Venezuela as going through a transition. And there is no transition going on in Venezuela. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez, she was the vice president under Maduro. So by constitution, she had to be declared the acting president of Venezuela because President Maduro is kidnapped. And she doesn't represent the change in government or in political policies. She represents the continuation of President Nicolas Maduro and the continuation of President Hugo Chavez. And Delcy Rodriguez has been giving many public addresses these past few days. She has been visiting communes across Caracas, visiting communities that were affected by the U.S. bombings. And she has been saying time and time again, Venezuela is not being ruled or governed by any external agent. Washington is not making the decisions in Venezuela. We are negotiating with Washington because they have kidnapped the president. So we need to negotiate in order to bring back President Maduro. And at the same time, we need to negotiate with Washington because we need to protect the Venezuelan people from any other military attack, as Trump already threatened to do. So she's saying we are still the same government. Every political decision that she's making right now was something that was already planned by President Maduro and his entire cabinet before he was adopted. So there is no transition, there is no change in government. Right now, what we're seeing in Venezuela is just a people that is trying to hold on to sovereignty, a people who is fighting against this U.S. intervention. And people are extremely aware that what is happening in Venezuela is that we are being held at gunpoint in order to negotiate with the United States. And people are aware of that. People know that that is what's happening. People know that kidnapping President Maduro was so the United States could extort Venezuela, so they could begin this extortion campaign. But we are people who are also used to this kind of aggression from the United States. So people know that right now what is more important is to remain united. So we have seen an extraordinary response from popular power, declaring support for acting President Delcy Rodriguez, acknowledging that she represents the continuation of President Maduro and President Hugo Chavez. And we're also seeing an extraordinary response from the military leadership, who have pledged that they're going to make sure that Venezuela has stability and continuity in democracy. So right now, we're not going to really see any kind of change or transition, politically speaking, inside Venezuela. What we are going to see is these negotiations with the United States are going to evolve, are going to continue. We might have to open up more diplomatic channels with the United States. And that is also not something entirely new. Before President Maduro was adopted, for months, he was calling the United States to open dialogue. He wrote a letter to President Trump in September saying that Venezuela was open to negotiate with the United States, to open diplomatic channels, to restart oil sales to the United States on the condition that U.S. sanctions were lifted, because that is what impedes Venezuela from selling oil. So that, I think that's what you're going to see, just more negotiation for the United States, more of Venezuela just trying to avoid any more aggression from the United States.
We see, first of all, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. We see President Trump pressing Houston oil executive during a television White House meeting on Friday, calling them to invest in restoring Venezuela oil and gas. And I have a clip of that was given to me by Roslyn. Let's take a listen.
If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made to those commercial frameworks, the legal system. There has to be durable investment protections, and there has to be a change to the hydrocarbon laws in the country. We're confident that with this administration and President Trump working hand in hand with the Venezuelan government, that those changes can be put in place.
Now, Roslyn, I know you have a question, but I want to say Sandy is in the room, so if you want to incorporate her in the conversation, feel free, go right ahead. Roslyn?
Yeah, I would love to, because I recognize, yes, I would. I recognize that shortly after the conflict came to a peak with Venezuela and President Maduro was captured, there then was rhetoric about the U.S. taking over Greenland. And that came to a head. And then this past week, there was the World Economic Forum, where many leaders across Europe pushed back against that rhetoric. And I know that Sandy Daly, who is a host on Roadblock Radio, is based in Canada and may have a perspective to share based on the comments that their prime minister has shared and new trade agreements that have been happening among nations after the fallout of what happened in Venezuela. Because I think sometimes when President Trump says things, people take it to be as facetious. But I think what happened is once President Maduro was captured, people felt that this was a real threat, that the sovereignty of other nations could be violated. So I want to give our guest, Ms. Chavez, an opportunity to respond to the clip, and then I would love a perspective from Sandy Daly on the latest.
Well, yes, I mean, in that clip, you hear something that, like I said, it remarks the reality that the reason why these foreign companies were unable to operate in Venezuela was because the same Trump administration, the first Trump administration in 2017 to 2020, it was the ones that imposed a blockade on Venezuelan oil industry and forced all of these foreign companies to abandon the country, to leave Venezuela. So, of course, that created, when you abandon an oil facility, it is going to be, of course, you're going to see a loss on operation activity. You're going to see the infrastructure suffer some consequences. So what this person is saying is that, of course, we need an incredible amount of investment in order to shape out all of this infrastructure that we abandoned because you told us to abandon this country. And that is something that we all knew. Everybody knew that that was going to happen. Now, what he's saying about changes that needed to happen, Venezuela already has a law that is called the anti-blockade law. And that law was created in 2020 precisely to create the conditions to be able to reinvigorate these oil facilities that were abandoned. And they create some facilities for foreign companies to come to Venezuela, to invest in Venezuela, and to have more direct operational control so they can invest and also take on any risk that investment takes. So, yeah, I mean, I think that clip just shows that the fact that the United States, they did this to themselves. They created these incredible difficult circumstances for Venezuela, and at the same time, they made these foreign companies lose a lot of money, and now they have to invest a lot of money in order to recover what they were forced to abandon.
Yeah.
Sandy, are you there? Well, welcome.
I am
Sandy.
here. I am here.
Did you hear the question that, I don't know if you heard what
I did.
Roslyn was asking, and what's your rebuttal on that? What do you have to say?
I did. Well, first of all, I'm hoping that everyone has their long johns on. All right, because
we all
we're
do.
all
We're
cold
snowed in here. We all are.
We're all cold. So thank you so very much for having me. And honestly, what Ms. Chavez is saying is 100% correct. In the way that America is on the losing side at this point, and I'll tell you why. So Canada recently made a deal with China to take away the tariffs that were always in place. So right now, instead of 100% tariffs to China, that was, has been in place for years, it's now down to 6%. And so what Prime Minister Carney is doing is basically ignoring, just as what, Ms. Chavez is saying, ignoring one side in regards to Venezuela, and we're going someplace else. So he made a statement at Davos, which of course, literally made Mr. Trump lose his mind. He basically said, the middle people like us, Canadians, who are not the world powers, out there, we're going to make the best deals for ourselves. And obviously the old world order that used to be is of no consequence anymore. So this, of course, made Mr. Trump very irate. Now he's taken and rescinded the invitation to the, whatever he wanted to call that peace treaty. Everyone here is going like, who cares? Nobody wanted to be in that in the first place, right? And so now what is happening is that the door is open for trade between Canada and China like no other times, because now the tariffs are gone. It's not 100% anymore. It's 6%. The EV cars are coming. And also what they've done is said, basically, if you want to have more trade in, like businesses here in Canada, if you want to have business with China, the field is open. Go ahead. We're not going to come at you like how we used to. It's not 100%. It's down to 6% for the cars and less for clothing and other items. So a girl is trying to figure out a clothing store that I'm going to have to build here in Canada, right? Because now there are no tariffs. And so what Andrea has basically said, Ms. Chavez has said, is that the U.S. has done this to themselves. Really, that's what we're looking at. And so since the whole conversation with the tariff situation began, Canada has started this thing of elbows up. So when you go into a grocery store, let me tell you what happens when you go into a grocery store now. When you go into a grocery store, you're going to try to buy milk, you're going to try to buy apples, you're going to try whatever. There are bins that say from the US, bins that say from Mexico, bins that say from Canada, bins that say from Venezuela, all the countries that you can. And most Canadians, unless they can't, will pick up a thing from a Canadian producer. So we're really into it in terms of trying to make sure that we support Canadian goods.
Sandy, thanks a lot for your input. We do have time. Sorry, Patrick, we can come back and talk some more. We only have 2 minutes left. I want to take a break. I want to thank, Roslyn, do you want to thank our guest, or did you want to continue after the break?
We'll take you when it comes. Hang with us for a few moments. We'll come right back and chat it up with you. Thank you.
All right, hold it.
This is The Community Connection on Roadblock Radio, 101.1 WCBS FM.
Let's drink to the hard-working people, and let's drink to the lowly of birth. Raise your glass to the good and the evil. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Say a prayer for the common foot soldier. Spare a thought for his back-breaking word. Say a prayer for his wife and his children, who burn the fires and who till the earth. sugar land to the hard-working people. Let's drink to the uncounted heads. Let's think of the wandering millions who need leaders but get gamblers instead. Yeah. When I search, my basement's crowd. Oh yeah, yeah. I can still see a master's brain. Yes, I can right now. Black and white. Oh, they don't look real to me. No, they don't. In fact, they look so strange. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Let's drink to the hard-working people. Let's drink of the lonely of birth. Let's drink to the ragtaggy people. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Let's drink to the hard-working people.
Tune in to Roadblock.
Now make them diss me a road, out a road.
Where the vibes and the music is hot. Hot. Run it. It's Roadblock Radio.
What a road. Got a road.
101.1 FM HD3. CBS FM.
I wanna love you and treat you right. I wanna love you every day and every night. We'll be together with the roof right over our heads. We'll share the shelter
Yeah, I want to love and treat you right. Mr. Robert Nesta Marley, 25 minutes before 4 o'clock. When we exit, what a show it's been on this very snowy Arctic Sunday afternoon. I'm David Shepard, Patrick Reed, Roslyn, and we still have our guest panel with us. I'll just dive right into it. Patrick, I know you had questions before we went on the break. If you want to go ahead.
First of all, let me just thank Adriana Chavez for being here with us this afternoon to talk about what is happening in Venezuela. Ms. Chavez, I don't know if you, there you go. Just wanted to, I like to understand what is happening on the ground, how the people are faring. We hear a lot of news about what's going on a gross level from the government of the United States perspective. But what do you see is happening? You mentioned a little bit about it earlier, but there were reportedly 25 million Venezuelans who left Venezuela because of the that's the news anyway. Left Venezuela because of the economic crunch the country was under. But what is happening now? Are Venezuelans going back home, or how are the average Venezuelans taking it day by day? How are things going?
Well, that depends. I mean, there is a part of Venezuelans who were directly traumatized by the U.S. bombings on January 3rd, and we are now seeing these, we're now hearing the testimonies of these people. For example, there's people in the city of Catialamar. They live in this really old building that has 16 apartments, and 8 apartments were destroyed by a U.S. bomb on January 3rd. And what we have been seeing is that they are dealing with the incredible trauma that is caused to their community, but at the same time, they have already begun rebuilding. In fact, just today, a few hours ago, they finally finished rebuilding all 8 apartments that were destroyed by this U.S. bomb. And so we're seeing these people finally coming to grasp with what happened, understanding that they were victims of a war crime, and understanding that that it is now time to rebuild, time to regain trust in their daily lives, trying to just overcome what happened to them. And there are also communities in Ciudad Tuna. Ciudad Tuna, it is a social housing complex that is inside Fuerte Tuna. Fuerte Tuna is a military complex, and that is where the residence of President Nicolas Maduro is, and that is the place in which he was adopted. So mainstream media keeps portraying the abduction of President Maduro as it happened in just this military site. And that is not true. President Maduro lives in a place that is surrounded by social houses. It is surrounded by communities. And they witnessed all the military attack. They witnessed the helicopters coming down to the communities. More than 400 apartments in Ciudad Tuna in this place were damaged by the U.S. bombings. So we're now seeing these communities also coming together, showing solidarity with one another, trying to recover from what happened, rebuilding all the damage that caused this criminal attack. And so we have from one side, we have that, people who are right now still recovering from the trauma of U.S. military attacks. And on the other side, we have just people from the communes, people from popular power organizations, understanding that we are facing that this is a historical moment. This is a historical moment for Venezuela, and they are making sure that people everywhere in the world can see that they are still working to build this socialist project that President Hugo Chavez once envisioned for Venezuela. They continue to work on that. They continue to go to the streets and to show the world that they are reclaiming sovereignty for Venezuela, and that they are going to continue to support President Maduro and his liberation. So that is what's happening on the daily lives in Venezuela. On the one side, we have people who are recovering from the trauma, and they are working alongside local authorities. They're working alongside their own communities to rebuild, to heal, and to just regain normality. And on the other side, we have people who are just making sure that every time any mainstream media tries to write a story about Venezuela, that the thing that they will see is people in the streets defending sovereignty and defending the government that they elected.
Yeah. So I guess in future programs, Roslyn might want to bring you back on to talk about the democratic process, and I mean the reconstituting the socialist movement that has happened there. But is there any sign of election that's going to come up so that people will have their say in terms of who leads Venezuela going forward? And that would be an interesting conversation to have.
Definitely. And before you go, Ms. Chavez, I just want to ask, because on this program, there are so many people who come from the Caribbean region, right, that listen, and of course, all of us who are speaking with you right now. So when we think about that Caribbean diaspora, how can listeners meaningfully show solidarity with Venezuela right now?
Well, I think one way of doing it is first to try to make sure that you tell the truth about Venezuela. We know that there are so many lies and manipulations in mainstream media. So I will encourage people to try to always go to primary sources, to try to go to media in Venezuela. For example, Venezuela News. It is an outlet here that is very accurate about what is happening in Venezuela. Then we have, in English, we have the People's Dispatch, we have Drogside, we have all of these other media that Tricontinental, that actually portray what is happening in Venezuela. They actually talk about the socialist project in Venezuela, and they talk about the reasons behind Venezuela's economic crisis, and they portray what is happening in Venezuela right now, which is people in the streets defending their sovereignty. So I will tell people to first try to clean their minds of all of this dishonest media propaganda and try to find the truth about Venezuela, to try to listen to people who are actually inside Venezuela and are living everything that is happening right now. And the second, I will tell that people need to organize in their own communities. People need to protest. People need to make rallies, marches, anything that they can do to show solidarity, not only with Venezuela, but with the entire Caribbean region, with the entire Latin American region. We have been saying this for a long time. What happened here was just the beginning. What happened here means that the United States now believes that it has global jurisdiction to kidnap any president anywhere in Latin America or the Caribbean, or to bomb any country that they deem an enemy. So it is important for people to show solidarity with Venezuela, but also have in mind that this is solidarity with everybody in the global South, because we are now all going to be victims of direct U.S. aggression, direct U.S. intervention. I mean, Trump said it in his national security strategy that he now plans to have an expansion of the Monroe Doctrine. And that only means that they are going to try to destabilize and interrupt and create chaos in Latin America, so it can become this extraction field for the United States, and so we can be always subjugated. And so people need to realize that showing solidarity with Venezuela, it has to be through concrete actions, and it also has to be related to what's happening in Gaza, to what's happening in Mexico, in Cuba, in Colombia. That would be my advice.
Thank you so much. You've given us so much to think about. And Roslyn, thank you for bringing Ms. Chavez on the program. We'll certainly keep in touch with you and update on what's happening there in Venezuela. Thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
All right, blessings. Yeah, man. Roslyn, David, we got Jerome Moe and Sandy Dale. Thank you for joining us. Canada, of course. Canada seems like it wants to slip out of the grip of the United States. You know, it might not be taking you over after all.
Sandy, you know he's going to get on you as soon as you get on here, right, Sandy?
Right, I know, but the thing is, Patrick is already seeing how Canadians roll. We don't play. We don't even need to come at you aggressively. We just do it in the very, slide way. Look at what our prime minister did with China. So we don't, we're here to stay.
No, so guys, I was watching the news and taking in from different viewpoints.
Yeah.
What Canada is doing. At the World Economic Summit, Canada seemed to have made a move to check the United States, and it seemed to be causing the president of the United States a lot of angst.
He lost his mind about that.
It's a big up, so I reset the balance or the thought process going forward. Are you guys behind this whole thing that Prime Minister Carney is doing?
For sure. Patrick and David and Roz and everyone that's on the panel. Canadians, we started with this, as I stated, elbows up last year when the whole tariff situation started. We took down the alcohol from out of the stores, and we have maintained that. And as I stated, when you go into grocery stores, it's basically you have a choice, and they highlight Canadian made or Canadian product. And they even go as far as to say 10% coming from the US or another country. So then they are very specific. And then there's even apps that have been created. So folks have created apps that when you go into a store, you can scan that product and say how much, what's the percentage, because some things might come from another country or whatever. So we're really just trying to make sure that Canada is self-sufficient. And as you said, Patrick, what you saw, what Carney did at Davos made an impact to the extent that Mr. Trump is very much in his feelings about it, because what Canada said was, we're not looking to the old world order anymore. We're making a road for ourselves. And at this point, we're not going to be looking at the US. Obviously, that relationship might be strained, has its issues. We don't know if we're ever going to get back there as being friends, but Canada is 100% going to look after itself. And this is where you saw, guys, the trade deal that just dropped, where China, which was seen as like somewhat of an enemy, now has only 6% coming into Canada and vice versa. So it has certainly opened up the doors for a lot of businesses to flourish because we're not looking at the old world anymore.
When you drop tariffs from 100% to 6%, that's billions of dollars in Canada.
Billions.
Billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
Then there's also a conversation about the water that Canada and the United States share, the Columbia River.
Shut it off.
There's so many cooperations and collaborations and connections between Canada and the United States that most Americans are not aware of.
We're like brothers and sisters. Yeah, we're like so
electricity
close.
that you guys share.
Right.
Michigan, if we don't have the, they were trying to they were, as a joke, they were telling our premier Doug Ford to turn off the lights in Michigan last year. It was just really bad, but we did it as a joke. But what I'm saying is, like, at this point, Carney has shown that we're not even looking at what Trump does. After a point, you kind of go, Roz, and
match him at his own game. Yeah.
Match him at his own game. You never look at him anymore. You just kind of go your own way and do what you want to do. And if he comes around and acts like a mature adult, fine. If not, we're not even looking at you, because it's not of no concern to us right now, because we just have to look after ourselves.
Now, let me say this. This is nothing personal. We good, right?
We're good.
How's the Canadian relationship? Because I know a lot of the Canadians say, oh, we ain't going to. A lot of them boycotted the USA. They're not coming.
Yeah, they did. And they certainly did. And
so how is it on a personal level, though, the relationships with...
We don't take it personally. Okay. For me personally, I have 5 brothers and sisters living in New York. That's why you see me there all the time. So I got to bounce. And I got friends. I've got friends there. So we don't do it personally. But to the extent that you're talking about Las Vegas, there are 3 hotels now that used to have a lot of Canadians that traveled. No one is going to Las Vegas anymore. So you know what 3 Las Vegas hotels did in the week? They basically said, we're going to be taking Canadian dollar at par. You know what that means? Because I think I told you, David, to get $1 US, it is $1.30 or 40,
almost
or more sometimes, depending on what the trade is. Now you can go to Vegas and spend a Canadian dollar. That is how bad it is, because no one from Canada is actually visiting.
But would that really convince Canadians, though, to really visit the U.S.?
That was a question. A lot of people said it won't even make a dent, because 30 or 40% of Canadians are not traveling to the U.S. They basically said, see you in 4 years. That's what they said.
Well, what's unfortunate is that if the U.S. and Canada are brother and sister, or siblings, right? We can't leave out some of our first cousins over in Europe who also seem to have, strong words about the current administration and a need to move in a different direction. Like, for example, I know that there's now a new meaning for the acronym MAGNA, which says, make America go away. So I think that just the change in the room around sentiment about the United States is very concerning, and we should all be paying attention to what that's going to mean going forward.
And that's exactly what Carney said, knowing exactly that the change is there and the tone, you have no idea. And to be quite real and honest, when we watch CNN and see what's happening with ICE and all the other stuff, it is very daunting. It is amazing to us to see those things in a modern day. And I'm going to say this, Canada has its issues, but you will never see something like that happening. Although a lot of times when I say when America catches a cold, sneezes, Canada catches a cold, you'll see certain things, but you will never see that extent in this country. So it is very, as you're saying, Roz, very daunting for us because the tone has changed. We're not that friendly when we want to travel anymore when it comes to that because we don't want to go to the States. Florida has seen such a dip, 40%. I was just there. A taxi driver was telling me, a lot of Canadians are not coming back anymore. And there's nothing that they can do about that at this moment. People are choosing to go to Mexico, to Aruba, all different parts of the world.
And it's not just Canada as well. You have Europeans who go to visit New York City, the Big Apple. Where I've seen reports where the Big Apple have had a dip in, in the amount of money they're generating from tourism.
Do you guys think that President Trump kind of blinked, given the fact that he had slapped tariffs on every European nation? You can think about because they wouldn't support him on Greenland, on taking over Greenland. Coming out of Davos, he seemed to be softening a bit on the sanctions and on his perspective on that. I'm wondering what may have happened there to kind of soften him a bit, or is he just making deals?
I mean, I think I actually spoke about this with David as well too. What happened is he saw the stock market and he saw what people were saying. He saw what the reaction was, and then he softened. And of course, people didn't vote for that. So he's very reactionary when it comes to certain things. And this is why our government is not even looking at him for any reaction. Nobody cares about Donald Trump. And I hate to say this. It's just that it's like you're dealing with a child. And I hate, God, I hate.
And what's the thing?
But you know what it is, right?
Yeah. And when you look at the difference and being so close, but the difference that we share, like Canada has so much more benefits for their residents, for their, citizens, as opposed to the US. When you talk about tax, when you talk about healthcare, when you talk about food, when you talk about homelessness, and even cleanliness, the roads in Canada is so clean. Canada, so I mean, why can't we be somewhat more like Canada? Why everybody trying to be like the US and we can't try to aspire to be like some other countries around the world that are doing so well like Canada?
Well, David, my response is the only time we want to be like someone else is when we're putting up bike lanes and removing parking. That's when it seems like we want to imitate other places.
And Jerome Mo, guess what, man? That's all we have to talk about, guys. While they were having their big economic forum in Davos, African nations were gathering in Davos as well. And I want to, in programs going forward, to talk about some really significant things that are happening on the African continent. The president of Ghana came out and sort of gave a reading on what African nations are doing and how they are to position themselves now that the world order is changing. And I want to keep my eyes on that because the potential for Africa's development is tremendous. And, the movements in the Sahel and other nations across Africa. I'm just wondering if you guys are looking at what is happening on the continent as we go crazy in the West here.
They're looking at becoming the United Nations of Africa. And when everyone gets excited about the toddler, I want you guys to just remember why we call him Tackle. Trump always chickens out. When anybody stands up to him, he chickens out. So it's the truth about every bully. When you stand up to them, they back down. And you're going to see that more and more. It should be more. But what I think will happen with Africa is they will we are trying to do it with a Pan-Africanism and the CARICOM in the West Indies. But we're separated by water. They aren't. And they're now looking to have the same kind of Pan-African Union where there's one currency. They're going to drop their borders and make it into like sections, and people will be able to move back and forth. And if they can do that, Africa will really take its place as the leader of the world.
Something to watch very, very closely. I have a heightened interest in that. And so as we go forward, guys, we're going to try and get some folks in to talk about that perspective, Roslyn. I know that you know, the interest in what is happening globally, you know, right now is so high. How are people reacting to what is going on in the United States and in the West? The global South has to see they're repositioning themselves, right? They're bolstering, and it's going to be very interesting going forward. I want to thank all of you guys this afternoon for joining Inside the Community Connection. Thank you to all of our guests who came in. Sandy Daly, you know, they allowed you to speak out of Canada today. I'm glad they didn't shut you down. You know, I was up there for 1 day and I had to jump out, you know.
David, help him now. You see, Patrick didn't even tell me that. I didn't even know you were going to be there. So if I knew that you're even going to come to this country,
I tell you, boy, I came in fast and had to leave quickly.
You know, David, I would have called the border people. Trust me.
Don't
let him in.
I appreciate that. I will talk tomorrow morning because we do have the morning grind right here.
The morning grind, yes. Thank you.
Weekday mornings, you can catch Sandy Daly right here from 10 to 12.
Roslyn, I want to thank you, Roslyn. Thank you so much for your efforts in bringing these guests on this afternoon. Made for a really interesting program. Jerome, thanks for jumping in. David Shepard, as usual, man. Thanks for being a provider here inside the Community Connection. We'll go and come next week, right? All right.
All right, guys. Roslyn, thanks a lot. It was productive. Good show. Thank you very much. We'll talk.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Mo, much respect. Bless up. And Sandy, we'll catch up tomorrow, okay? And to everyone listening right now, thank you all for keeping it locked right here to Roadblock Radio, your #1 Caribbean station. I'm David Shepard, Roslyn Smith, and Patrick Reed signing out for the Community Connection. Catch me and Sandy there tomorrow morning, 10 to 12 noon, right here on Roadblock Radio. Have a good one, guys.